Colossal Dreadmaw Tribal. Hello everyone, it is your Commander-in-Chief Billy G here, coming today with probably the most powerful deck tech this channel will ever see. Colossal Dreadmaw has finally been printed enough by Wizards to bring the price down so we can finally build a deck out of this in a kind of a budget way. So, let's get going and let's take a look at some big green boofers. Now, for everyone's convenience, I've put a deck list in the description to this video to this list so that you can build it at your leisure when you are ultimately convinced to do so by this video. Now, due to the rules of Commander, we have to have a legendary creature to be our commander. Unfortunately, as legendary as he might be in lore, Colossal Dreadmaw isn't legendary as a super type, so we got the next best thing. We got Kodama of the North Tree. 2 green for legendary creature spirit. It has trample and shroud, and it's a 6/4. The important thing is 6 power and trample. The closest thing we could get to a Colossal Dreadmaw to lead the helm of this deck. Now, Dreadmaws, they're not cheap. They're big, beefy boofers, and they cost a bit to cast. So, we gotta make sure we get our ramp package going to make sure we can cast these things with relative ease. We start out with our 3 elf boys, Elvish Mystic, Finehorn Elves, and Llanowar Elves. Beyond that, we also have Coppermere, Llanowar Tribe to tap for the GGG, Incubation Druid to tap for the GGG if it has a +1/+1 on it, otherwise just G. We got Birds of Paradise, Sylvan Caryatid, Drover of the Mighty. They can all tap for any color, but we know we only need the G. Then we have a couple with some restrictions. We got Channeler Initiate, which can tap for any color, but you can only use it 3 times. And you got Beastcaller Savant, which can tap for any color, but you can only use it on creatures. We got plenty of those. We have Secure Tribe Elder, which can sack to get us land. And we got Wood Elves, which when it enters the battlefield can get us land. With the recent reprint, we also get Azusa Lost But Seeking to get 2 extra land drops a turn. And we have an enchantment, Gaia's Touch, which lets us play 1 extra land a turn as long as it's basic forest. And in a pinch, we can sack it for GG, and then tell the opponents GG. We have Cultivate and Kodama's Reach to get some more lands out of our deck and put some into our hand as well. And we got Into the North, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth that will all let us get an extra land to the battlefield. And finally, we have the Ring, Soul Ring, to get us that extra 2 colorless mana, which will come in super handy. Now, since it's probably going to take us a bit to get our engines going to get these big, beefy boofers out there, we got to make sure we can handle anything that kind of comes on the board ahead of time that might interfere with our game plan here. So, to take care of any pesky artifact or enchantments, we got Reclamation Sage, Nature's Claim, and Return to Nature, which can also take care of something in the graveyard for us if needed. For some creature removal, we have some spot removal. We got Aggressive Instinct and Rabid Bite, which both just deal damage equal to the one of our creature's power to another creature. We got Ambuscade, which gives +1/+0 until end of turn and does a similar thing. Nature's Way, which gives Vigilance and Trample until end of turn and does a similar thing. And then we have 3 fight spells. Ancient Animus, which gives a +1/+1 counter if it's a legendary creature and fights another creature. Epic Confrontation, which gives it +1/+2 until end of turn and fights another creature. And the Savage Punch, which fights another creature, and if you have Ferocious, which in this deck we probably will, it gets a bonus +2/+2 until end of turn. Then, to handle any crazy board states we might be having an issue with, we have Azuri's Predation, which makes 4/4 beast tokens for each other creature that your opponents control and makes them all fight each other. And then we have the big green reset button, the Great Aurora, to just nuke the table and reset the board in our favor if anything's get way too out of hand. We also have a couple ways to protect our own creatures, just in case anybody tries to pull some shenanigans on us. With its reprint in Core 21, we can get Heroic Intervention on the cheap these days. We also have the budget alternative to it, Wrap and Vigor, which only regenerates, so doesn't help in every situation, but does a good job protecting our board against the board wipes. Then, to make sure our hands are nice and full of big, beefy boofers, we have Beast Whisperer, which lets us draw a card whenever we cast a creature. Lifecrafter's Bestiary, which lets us pay green to draw a card whenever we cast a creature. It also lets us scry at our upkeep. And Courser of Krufix, though not card draw, lets us play lands from the top of our deck, which is card advantage in its purest form. We also have Garruk's Uprising, which is an enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, if you have a creature 4+ power, you get to draw a card, and then when any subsequent 4+ power creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw another one. We have Rishkar's Expertise, which lets us draw cards equal to the largest power of a creature we control, and then we get to cast a 5 mana or less spell for free, pure value. And then lastly, we have Shamanic Revelation, which lets us draw a card for all the creatures we might control. And then, as a bonus, we gain 4 life for each creature with power 4 or greater, which we should have plenty of. We gotta work our way up from the bottom, though. Let's be real here. So, we got our mana base. We have a couple of lands here that give us a little bit of extra mana. We have Blighted Woodland, which lets us sack for 2 basic lands. Myriad Landscape, which also lets us sack for 2 basic lands. And Castle Garenberg, which can tap for 6 mana by just putting 4 mana into it. We have our desert package of Desert of the Indomitable, which just cycles in case we flood. And Hashap Oasis, which when we sack a desert can give a creature +3/+3. And Scavenger Grounds, which is a little bit more graveyard hate for our deck, where we can sack a desert to exile all the graveyards. Then we have some miscellaneous utility lands. We got Memorial to Unity, to sack to dig for another creature. Mosswarp Bridge to hide away until we get 10+ power of creatures, which should be easy peasy. Or on Reef the Vastwood, which can tap to put a 1/1 counter on all the green creatures that enter this turn, so lots of buffing we can do with that. Then we got a couple cycling lands in Slippery Karst and Tranquil Thicket. And finally, we have 5 snow-covered forests as targets for the Into the North, and 20 basic forests to round out our mana base. So here it is, folks. The time you've been waiting for. Here come the Dreadmaws! Leading out the pack, we have Pathbreaker Worm, Krosan Groundshaker, and Keswick Dire Swine, all of which would have a bit of conditional trample here. We have Yavimaya Worm, Vulpine Goliath, and Rootbreaker Worm, a little bit more vanilla 6-power tramplers. We have Brambleweft Behemoth, the true 6/6 trampler, Rampaging Baloths, a 6/6 trampler with landfall to make 4/4 beast tokens, Living Hive, a 6/6 trampler that makes 1/1 tokens equal to the amount of damage it does to a player. We have Carnage Worm, a 6/6 trampler with Bloodthirst 3, Craw Giant, 6/4 trample with Rampage 2, and Wrecking Beast, a 6/6 trampler with Riot. We have Soul of the Harvest, a 6/6 trampler, which draws us cards whenever non-token creatures enter the battlefield. Sawtusk Demolisher, a 6/6 trampler with Mutate, and when it mutates, you can destroy target non-creature permanent and its controller gets a 3/3 beast token. And Nylea, God of the Hunt, a 6/6 indestructible that's not a creature unless your devotion to green is 5 or greater. It gives your other creatures trample and can buff your other creatures if you want to sink some mana into it. We got some Dreadmaws that do not go away. We have Honored Hydra, a 6/6 trampler with Embalm for 3 and a G. Penumbra Worm, a 6/6 trampler that when it dies, makes another 6/6 trampler. And Vigor, a 6/6 trampler that protects the rest of your team from combat damage, and if it ever dies, you just shuffle it back into your deck anyways. Then we have Argothian Worm, a 6/6 trampler when it enters the battlefield, and the opponent may sack a land and it just puts it right back on top, but it's cheap, it's only 3 and a green. Then you have Thorn Mammoth, a 6/6 trampler, when it enters the battlefield, it fights any other creature, and when any other creature on the battlefield, it can fight again. And then you have Woodfall Primus, a 6/6 trampler, which when it enters the battlefield destroys target non-creature permanent, and it has persist, so when it dies, it just does it right again. And last, but definitely not least, we have the granddaddy of them all, our source of daily inspiration, the colossal Dreadmaw, a 6/6 trampler that doesn't do anything else, and we love him for it. So you may be asking yourself, how exactly do we win with this deck? Well, you cast big green boofers, and then you turn the big green boofer sideways. Unless they got vigilance, then you just kind of like poke. So there you have it. possibly the greatest deck list on this channel, perhaps even of all time. And get this, at the time of recording this video, you can get all the cards on TCG Player Sand Shipping for under $100. So it's a budget option to just roll over people and hit them with the trample damage. I thank you for joining me this week. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe down below. I plan on doing more spicy deck techs going forward. I have some awesome lists brewed up right now, so keep an eye out for those. Hit the bell icon if you want notifications of when they're posted. Feel free to follow me on other social media. I'll plop up some handles on the screen here right now. And feel free to like, comment, share. Get this video out there. We need to spread the good word of Colossal Dreadmaw and his brethren. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'll see you all again.